Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I appreciate you joining me today. Most of the success advice out there is just recycled nonsense. You've heard the same cliches over and over again for years and years, and nothing has changed in your life. Why do you think that is? I can tell you after coaching 4,000 clients that most cliches just sound smart, but they're really killing your progress because they're just flat out wrong and or inactionable. So the goal of this video today is I'm going to give you 12 of the most popular productivity and mindset cliches that are out there and replace them with actual truth-backed, action-ready frameworks and how you can move your life forward, both personally and professionally. With each one, we'll give you a breakdown of the raw mindset shift, the logic behind it, and sample actions you can take in your life. All this information will be available for download for reference from our free school community, which is linked below in the description. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to get all of our videos and content. This can be your altruism for the day, helping others find this content. All right, let's dive in. So the first one is progress over perfection. The faulty aspect here is sloppy progress is just motion, right? Like you're not actually going anywhere. Precision is what scales. So when we break this down, this phrase or cliche of progress over perfection just encourages action, but there's no intentionality behind it. It really is celebrating on an incorrect incentive structure of half effort, right? What we really want to do is we want to maximize our leverage. And in a high leverage environment, progress without precision just creates double work, triple work. It creates noise. It creates chaos. It doesn't actually help us anywhere. And so you don't get rewarded for starting fast. You ultimately should be getting rewarded for executing well. So the mindset shift that I want to flip here is changing progress over perfection to perfect enough to ship and precise enough to win. And giving you a couple different examples here is if anyone has ever been involved in a product launch or even a big product update of any kind, whether this would be software or something physical or tangible, right? If you have a product manager that raises the QA standards to a very, very high degree. And so I'm going to use a software example here because a lot of my background has been on that side of the equation. And by raising the QA standards, by having a lot more testing standards, we're going to reduce the amount of bugs post-launch, which are going to earn the trust with our leadership and with our customers, right? This is something very, very simple. It's not seeking perfection entirely because as previous content that I've said, and I still stand by this statement, is you don't want perfectionism to just masquerade as procrastination, right? Like that sets you up again for failure. So that's why we say it's perfect enough to ship, but it's precise enough to win. So you need to create the standards and take the actions to make sure that what you're delivering is of a high enough quality to be successful, but you're not getting stuck in a rabbit hole of analysis paralysis. And so using the example of the product manager raising the QA standards, the actions that you can take in this scenario are you look at historical product launches, you identify the most common post-launch issues in your past work or in past company work. And if you don't have experience in this, you can ask AI. Again, like that's a beauty of that is you can have your AI, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude. I would recommend Claude for this one personally to identify what product managers typically run into in a post-launch scenario. You can then turn that into a pre-launch checklist that must be passed before pushing something live, before releasing the physical product and shipping it out or sending it to the manufacturing facility, etc. This should not be a closed system effort. This should involve kind of cross-functional leaders and stakeholders and other people that might be involved. So think your sales teams, your marketing teams. Also, if you're on the engineering side, if this is something physical, again, like get the necessary teams into this brainstorm and block out the calendar time for dedicated review and the precision editing needed. So the actions that we took here to create our perfect enough to ship and precise enough to win are we identified our likely issues. We turned that into a checklist before we started taking action. We went outside of ourselves and outside of our department to other collaborators that would be involved and impacted by the decisions made of a product change. And then we blocked out the calendar to make sure that we have dedicated time and review. If we flip this over into your personal life, let's say you're trying to set up a reliable budgeting system, right? You're trying to get out of debt, which a lot of people are dealing with right now. And, I know the economy, people are starting to feel a little bit better, but it never hurts to have good financial advice. So what we could do here is similar concept, right? Think we audited, we made a list, we then involved people that we needed to collaborate with, and then blocked out the time to do it. So if we flip that to this example, right, audit your last 90 days of spending. You can use a free tool like Mint. You can go the old school route, which is honestly what I do on an annual basis just to make sure my tools are working, which is literally like download every single credit card statement, manually go through, etc. So overall, audit your actual spending. Give yourself 20 minutes a week to go over your finance review. Pick your day of the week where you have that and go over every single thing to see how you are currently spending your money and how you want to spend it moving forward. Build a Google Doc, Google Sheet, something very simple. You don't have to pay a bunch of money for this, right? That's going to have your budgeted categories and your formulas, and then track and adjust monthly. If you have a spouse or somebody in your life of that regard, that would be our collaborative stakeholder, right? So this is how you begin to be perfect enough to ship and precise enough to win, is identify your issues, perform an audit, turn that into a set of actions and checklists, collaborate with the people that need to be collaborated with, and then make sure you dedicate consistent time to take care of it. And that's going to lead into our second one. Consistency is key. Consistent mediocrity is still mediocrity. So it's not just about consistency. While consistency is an absolute requirement for success in any endeavor, even if you don't necessarily want to be a top 1%, even if you just are like, you know what, like I'm completely cool staying where I'm at in my position because I want to spend more time in my life than at work or whatever it is, you still need to maintain your employment. That still requires consistency. So this is the fundamental flaw here, is that if you don't apply the consistency to anything, then you're not actually going to move the needle, right? You need to be able to consistently do the right things, adapt fast, and double down on what is actually working, especially now in the day and age where AI is just transforming everything at a rapid pace. So the way I want to flip this is, instead of consistency is key, to consistency as a multiplier, not a compass. Okay? That is what it is consistency is compounding. I know I'm going to mess up this exact math off the top of my head, but the whole 1% better a day equals 365% better at the end of the year is wildly incorrect. Last time I recall, it's been a while since I've run that, but I believe it's over 3,000% because of the way compounding interest works, right? That's actually what we're looking to do here. And so something to apply this in your example is let's just say that you have a set of repeated tasks on your job that you're trying to do, and you're trying to focus instead on high impact work, right? This is going to be very similar to our last one as to what the actions you can take as any employee. You could be entry level, you could be mid level, you could be leadership. It doesn't matter. You're trying to get rid of just the task repetition that's just nonsense and eating time and not allowing you to do what's high leverage. Take a time study is what I recommend doing. We'll build an Excel spreadsheet, and literally every 15 or 30 minutes, write very quick summaries. We're talking 20, 30 seconds tops. If you are a slow typer and you need to write, do it in a notebook. The medium is irrelevant, but the idea is that every 15 to 30 minutes throughout your day, you're just putting a quick summary of what you did. Responded to emails. If you're on the front lines of manufacturing, you went through the quality checklist. You cleaned up your environment, whatever it is. These quick, short one-liners, etc. Then what you want to do is identify after a week, what was your actual high ROI and what was your busy work, right? And the thing is psychology-wise, your brain functions better from a creativity, energy, and learning perspective earlier in the day, and it slowly winds down throughout the day. So you want to reorganize your calendar and your task list to then front load your strategic work or front load some thinking time, and then you could take that and then ask your manager what the most valuable deliver is for this quarter, for this half year, for this year, whatever it is. Put that into your organization of your calendar where your high ROI versus busy work analysis aligns with what your high valuable deliverable is. Reorganize your calendar, track the results. And that way you're dedicating time to that high value deliverable over and over and over again every single day. This is how you turn consistency from a mediocre perspective into consistency with actual precision and dedication to make it a multiplier. In your personal life, we can all relate to this one, I'm pretty sure, which is keeping fit and taking care of ourselves, and the mindless gym visits or the up and downs of things and not being able to follow the goal program. And the key here I find is also specificity, right? So this is why, for the professional example, we outlined what we do on a daily basis every single week. We then went to our manager to say, what's our specific deliverable? That's what we're going to do here on the fitness side. Not saying you have to go be Arnold Schwarzenegger jacked level. All of us have different goals. It's whatever your goal is, but make it clear and actually with numbers. So not just maybe a set weight, but maybe you're like, you know what? I don't care what I look like. I just want to be able to enter the 1,000-pound club between my bench press, my squat, and my deadlift, right? Like define the number of whatever number matters to you from your fitness program. Okay. That's what you want to define first. Then create the program and the progressive structure to do that. You can download an app, something like RP Fitness and Hypertrophy app. You could, if you have a wearable, you could use something like an Apple Watch or a Whoop. You could also just do it through an Excel spreadsheet. You could go super old school again and do it through a notebook. Medium is irrelevant, but something to sit there and track your progress, log each workout, track the progression, make sure you're doing progressive overload, and then every single week, reflect and say, did I apply myself accordingly as I said I needed to towards my goal, or did I not, and adjust accordingly? This is how you turn consistency into a multiplier and an output machine. Okay, next one, fake it till you make it. The problem with this is faking it really teaches your brain that you're a fraud at some capacity. And so you're trying to really put yourself into an okay scenario, an approved scenario to pretend. And what we really need to do is build kind of micro skills and competence over time. And competence isn't built in one class or one session. And so I want to change fake it till you make it to prove it till you believe it. That is what you want to do, is you're trying to build that giant stack of proof to showcase you are what you say you are. This is a little bit of, I'll give full credit here, a little bit of a morph to Alex Hormozy. I believe his quote is, build an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. Confidence isn't built by shouting affirmations in the mirror. I believe that's his paraphrasing, give or take. This is really what that's born from, is it's the fake it till you make it, and it said prove it till you believe it. And so I don't know, I need to give a very robust example here, because I think that this one really just makes sense. But let's say that you are wanting to learn public speaking and leading meetings, for instance, right? You can't just sit there and say, I'm an excellent public speaker, right? Instead, just go to your leader and say, hey, I want to lead our check-ins once a week, right? And then also when you're one-on-ones with your leader, say, hey, how did I do? Where could I be better, right? Can sit there and get that feedback, track that feedback over time to make sure it's at least changing. Because if you're getting the same feedback week over week over week, then you're having a problem. You keep your running document of those wins and the feedback. And then overall, that's just going to build your reps week over week, right? Again, if you lead one meeting a week, that's a quick 15-minute department check-in or something. By the end of the year, that's 52 meetings you've led. I mean, that's way, way better. And then honestly, I would expect by the end of the year, you're actually increasing over time, because here's the thing that's also a hidden gem here is if you choose to lead these meetings in particular, your manager's no longer meeting them and they're going to want to offload it to you. So it's a great way to actually get yourself ahead as well and set yourself up for success. On the personal side, right, is let's say you just want to stop pretending to be confident and instead actually be confident, right? So this can be done by setting 3 daily non-negotiables, whatever it is, right? So if you want to, wake up on time, or, walk every day, or journal in gratitude every day, doesn't matter what it is. What are your non-negotiables to make that thing happen, right? Track it with a visual tool. Make sure that you get up and you do it immediately. Build that proof every time you do it. Give yourself a little 2-minute gratitude celebration. And then every single week, reflect and go, was I able to do this every single day? Did I actually achieve it? And if I didn't, why? All right. So this next one is actually going to be relating back to previous video of mine, that if you are saying yes to everything, then you are prioritizing nothing. And so most people will tell you to say yes to the opportunities, right? When opportunity comes knocking, say yes. No, because now you have no filter. You're leading yourself down a path to guaranteed burnout, being overwhelmed, not being able to keep up, being anxious because you have too many options on the table of what to do. And just so every time that you say yes to something, right, it's a no to something else. And if you just continue to say yes to other people's things, then you never get to say yes to yourself. And this is what ultimately leads to burnout. So instead of saying yes to opportunities, you want to say yes to strategy, not noise. And the fundamental filter here is actually going to require you to know what season of life you are in terms of what you are trying to achieve. So if I take myself, for example, right, I am trying to have my coaching business be at least 10%, preferably 20% greater year over year than last year. And on the kind of day job side of the equation in my IT leadership career, then I am looking to, excuse me, I am looking to successfully lead a software development team for the first time. Okay, so my filters on both of those aspects, whether I get opportunities on the career coaching business here promoted, or I get opportunities over here on the director leadership side of the equation, my number one filter is it working towards the goal I have set out? So if I have an opportunity over here that's not going to lead me to that 10 to 20% growth in my business, it's a no. And if I have an opportunity over here that is going to take me away from leading my software development team effectively, then the answer is no. Okay. And so that's what you want to do is whenever you have an opportunity, never say yes immediately. Just like when you're in an offer scenario of a job, you never say yes on the phone. Write down the opportunity. Ask yourself if it aligns with your goals. Say no if it doesn't. Say yes if it does. Prioritize what are the maximum levers that go towards your strategic initiative, and then deliver. And this is also going to allow you to deliver much more quality work, much more memorable work. And this is also what's going to get you to that promotion scenario is when you define your goal. Like I said, whether it's promotion, whether it's more money, whether it's just to stay employed. Again, this isn't a 1%er only type of rule and mindset. This applies regardless. You will deliver consistently and quality over and over and over again. On the personal side, where most of us, maybe not most of us, where a lot of people mess themselves up, right? Is they just agree to too many social obligations. And when you get that calendar reminder of like, oh, we're supposed to go out to dinner with the Kerrigans tonight, and you're like, I don't want to do that. Right. And because you didn't give yourself enough time to rest, or you set yourself up for failure by just yes, 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 instead of telling people in your life no in some regard. And so what I want you to do here is I want you right now, immediately, if this is a problem for you, audit your calendar, figure out what are non-essential commitments and what are essential commitments. Again, what contributes to your goals and what doesn't. Okay. And what I want you to do is I want you to then say the ones that were non-essential. Which ones do you wish you didn't agree to? Identify those criteria. So was it the people that you were with? Was it the event? Was it the fact that you had things 3 weeks in a row and you just didn't want to do this one the fourth week in a row? Whatever it might be, write down those criteria. And then in the future, I want you to hold yourself to saying no. And even better, go ahead, especially if it's a frequency or time related thing, block that out on your calendar guaranteed. So if you know that you want at least 2 weekends of every single month without other social obligations, block them out from here moving forward. No questions asked. End of story. And then use that reclaimed time to take care of yourself. All right. Next one. You have the same 24 hours as everybody else. And we use an extreme here to really represent what I want to convey. You have the same 24 hours as Jeff Bezos. No, you don't. Right? He has a team of however many people are employed by Amazon, hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. And even in his actual life, right, he probably has a team of 30 to 50 people between assistants and advisors and boards and etc. Right. And so time equality is a myth, right? Because you as a single person have 24 hours. But if someone has a team of 10 people around them to advise and make decisions and act on their behalf, etc., again, if we're 10 people, then they actually have 240 hours every single day. So time equality is completely incorrect. And so I want you to take this mindset of you have the same 24 hours as pick your high achiever to it's not about hours, it's about leverage. That is what you can do is you need to figure out your maximum leverage activities. And leverage I'm defining here is what is the least amount of input that I can get the most amount of output for. Okay. So can I lift a 1 pound dumbbell and get biceps like Schwarzenegger? Like that's like the extreme example. Like we know the answer to that question is no, but that is the example is like, how could I do that? How could I lift a 1 pounder and get Schwarzenegger biceps? I don't know why I'm on Schwarzenegger here in this video, but I hope that's okay. So in your career, using an example here, right? So a lot of us, especially on the leadership side, but even if you're kind of on the floor side, you have a lot of reporting or time reclaiming or things like that that you have to do. And so this is where you can leverage tools like Zapier or ChatGPT or even building out templates, right, to reduce repeat work. I know something that was super, super simple that I did right is I had repeat emails that I have to send out on my career coaching business, right? And email templates are kind of a pain in Outlook, shockingly, right? Like you have to save it as a file, then open the file and then modify and set, right? One of the greatest tips I got was to save repeat emails as signatures, right? So then you click the signature, fill in a couple blanks, done. And it's so much faster than actually doing it as an email template, right? So you can templatize things. You can use software applications, query AI to have discussions, whatever. Batch tasks together instead of having to switch context. So if you know that you need to respond to emails, send some Teams messages, and fill out your time card, right? All three of those are kind of on the computer screen, right? So do those together instead of being like, okay, I'm going to respond to emails and then I'm going to go back to over here and then I'm going to do this, right? Instead of having to go back and forth and constantly wearing your brain down through switching contextual information, do everything at the computer all at once, okay? You also want to document, demonstrate, delegate, right? So delegate what doesn't require your level of skill. If you've outgrown it, figure out a way to delegate it. And that does not mean with people. Can you always do tools, or can you do tools, right? So this way the company doesn't have to go spend a crap ton of money on an FTE, or you as an entrepreneur don't have to go hire somebody, right? Can you delegate to a piece of software? Take that save time and spend it on future focused projects, things that are actually going to get you to where you want to go. This is how you begin to increase your leverage. And in the world of AI, and especially the agentic workflows that we're going into, right? You can have a team of 50 and get, or, that team of 10 and get that 240 hours, for a very, very low cost. That's the kind of world that we are living in here. Okay. So do not believe you have the same 24 hours as everybody else. On the personal side, right? Again, take small things, actually mind things out to the dollar. We talked about finances earlier and spending your money effectively and how you want, right? Actually look at, is it cheaper for me to outsource chores than not? And where most people go wrong here is, here's the thing. They think that you can calculate your hourly rate by saying, I make $100,000 a year, which is $50 an hour. But that's not how that works unless you are able to take that time that you are getting back and turn that into that $50 an hour, right? So you need to actually take it by the total hours that you are awake, which I think $100,000 a year would end up being somewhere around like 20 to 25 an hour or something like that if you actually calculate it, right? Because if you are doing your 40 hours a week, 160, it's like roughly like a 4x on that, I believe. So you would divide by 4 from what your actual work hourly rate is. Gives you a rough estimate if I recall correctly, and then use that, right? So if your actual just life hourly rate, not just your work hourly rate, is a certain amount, how much time do you spend cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, etc., right? And if you spent that elsewhere, like even if it was something like door dashing or Instacarting, or again, having somebody clean your house, look at actually that scenario, because if you're not someone who's going to use that time to make more money, then you need to use your lifetime earnings or life hourly earnings. If you are not going to do that and you are actually going to use that time to make more money, then now you actually have a lot more reason to outsource your kind of chores and menial things and invest that into money-making opportunity. Okay, and that kind of leads into the next one, right? Is people say, hustle 24/7 or just hustle culture, this and that. And here's the thing. I am a grinder myself. I consistently, I function on 16-hour plan days, 6 days a week. Now, those 16-hour days aren't all work, right? But they're going to be work. They're going to be working out. They're going to be taking care of dinner, taking care of my family. It is, I would say it's 16 hours of responsibility. If I had to split it between my IT leadership job and my side business, all in all, it probably is 12 to 13 hours out of those 16 is spent on that every single day. And the rest is spent elsewhere. And then I leave myself the 1 day a week for guaranteed Sunday fun day, as I call it, right? So I am a grinder. I am a huge proponent of hustle culture. But chronic hustle is a sign of bad systems, right? And so for me, it's something I've had to constantly evolve over the last few years of my life as I've really expanded the amount of responsibilities I'm working on every single day, to lead to that 16 hours of forward progress every single day. I really have had to evolve my systems a lot more, right? Figure out what worked well from a time tracking, keeping track of everything, using time blocking, etc. And that's going to be the example that I give you here is in your professional career work, right? So going back to what I said earlier, that your mind is best done new and creative tasks and things like that, deep work essentially earlier in the day, block those hours on your calendar and do not negotiate them, right? Block 1 to 2 hours every single day at the beginning, right? Create templates for your common tasks. Automate your follow-ups and reporting. Like I said, right? I created email signatures for both the templates and automating the follow-up. Some other automatic follow-ups I built into my CRM and an automation workflow. I do my time blocking. I also have a program called TickTick where it has a Pomodoro timer tracker and it has all of my tasks in it, both personal and professional. And then I literally have a weekly review every single Sunday where I have in there the 5 or less things that I need to do every single week to fulfill this season of my life. And I review, did I do them? And if not, why? right? And so and this is actually how I approach personal and professional. So I'm going to combine these for these example, right? This is how you refine your systems. And when you go, oh, I'm spending too much time on this, let me get a piece of software or let me hire somebody, right? Whatever it might be. Like I just brought on my first sales guy because that was consuming too much time to where I'd get successful sales. I then would have to fulfill my client work because I work one-on-one with people, but now I don't have the time to do the sales anymore because I'm doing my client work, right? And so it was inevitable that I was an ebb and flow business from a revenue perspective. I couldn't just sustain that revenue by sustaining the work focusing on my clients, but instead I'd have to do sales work, get leads, close people, fill up pipeline, do pipeline. As pipeline decreases, now I can do sales again to try, and it just didn't really work out very well. So don't hustle 24/7. Build systems that hustle for you. Build systems that hustle for you. All right, this is one that actually I've thought a lot about because I love this saying, which is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. I have used this 1,000 times or more in my life, probably. And the problem with this is that you realize that shooting blindly is just a waste of ammo, right? And you need to aim first, right? So you need to know what you are doing. But there is a level of balance here, right? So as we said earlier, with the perfect enough to ship, precise enough to win, right? You don't want to get caught too much in perfectionism. I'm also a big fan of the book Ready, Fire, Aim, where you're taking your action before you aim a little bit, but you're doing some readiness over here as well, right? So there's a little bit of a balance here, but I want you to shift from you miss 100% of the shots you don't take to you miss 100% of the shots you take with your eyes closed, right? You need to have your eyes wide open. You need to be informed. Okay. So using job search strategy as a specific example, right, is, right now the market's a little bit different. So I'm going to use this example more from a traditional environment scenario, which is instead of applying to 100 jobs a day, right, you want to do like 10 tailored high quality cover letter applications, etc. Right? So you want to identify the ideal companies, tailor your resume and cover letter, network with employees that are at that position, and then track those follow-ups in a spreadsheet weekly, as I've had content on before. Right now the market isn't that case. So this is actually where I say you need to find that balancing act. Right now in the market, I actually do recommend applying to as many jobs as you can per day that are within your career path. But I do still think that the happy medium you can do here is write a unique cover letter using AI for every single job application. So that way there is a high quality, unique application scenario for that purpose. And then the second that a company shows interest in you, that's when you network with employees. That's when you do your heavy research. That's when you go review their content. And then you have a heavily tailored interview cycle. So you apply in mass with a unique cover letter. So that way it feels like a unique application every single time. That's how you have that balancing act there, but you have the volume of applications out there to be successful. Then you have an ultra tailored interview cycle. That's my recommendation for the current market of a job search strategy. And that's how you avoid the you miss 100% of the shots you don't take and turn it into you miss 100% of the shots you take with your eyes closed. Taking it into the personal life, right? So we all right now, or a lot of people are struggling, from a dating perspective, right? Like I'm married, so I don't necessarily have to deal with this, but something that I felt that really, really helped me gain a lot of clarity and is dating with intentionality, right? So like write down, what are you looking for? What is your desired outcome? What are your top values and what are your top red flags, right? And just get into it on the first date. I don't care if you're male or female, right? Like present what it is you are looking for. Cut out, the unnecessary fat immediately. And if someone's not looking for what you're looking for, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, right? Ask those questions immediately. And then, reflect after the date to say, oh, could I have maybe seen this if it was from like an online dating profile? Was there signs of this, etc.? And then adjust your approach and then take care of the outcomes. Okay. So again, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or you miss 100% of the shots you take with your eyes closed. Okay. Next one. Think positive. Delusional optimism is just denial in a hoodie, right? Like blind positivity ignores the actual risks that come with it, right? And so I like to say, like, you need to pair your optimism with some realism and action to be taken, right? Like you can't just think positive and the universe is going to will your positivity into existence, right? You need to will your positivity into existence. Okay. So I want you to just take this from think positive to be positive, not passive. Okay, right? So being positive, taking action, turning that positivity into something tangible. Don't just expect the universe to be manifesting it for you. Okay, now I know some of you might believe in manifestation, blah, blah, blah. Fine. You can manifest it, but only through action, right? If you want to become a millionaire, you want to find a partner or whatever, and all you do is just sit in your house, it ain't happening. Okay. So on the career side, right now, a lot of people are going for, are being laid off. A lot of companies are downsizing. And so you need to prepare, potentially all of us, right? Anybody that's in white collar right now, like, should be preparing for layoffs before they happen. You should be updating your resume. You should be networking. You should be applying. You should be doing this consistently, right? So update your resume in LinkedIn monthly. Put in calendar reminders for job market check-ins. Build 2 professional connections per month on LinkedIn and stay in touch with them, right? Apply before you have to. Go on interviews just because, okay? You should constantly be in the market right now, and that way you are prepared at any given moment. Okay. And on the personal side, right, we could all have health issues just come in overnight, right? So you want to make sure that you book any overdue appointments, track your energy, sleep, and mood, start a low stress movement routine, right? Build support from friends or a professional, right? Just being a little bit proactive here, understanding that yes, you need to be positive, but turn that positivity into what are the actions that I can take to fulfill the positive thing that I am trying to manifest into the universe. Be positive, not passive. Okay? Just be yourself. Here's the thing, your current self might suck. And I know it's going to be hard to hear, right? But growth requires evolution, right? And your identity should not be static, right? Like a static identity is going to feel safe. It's going to feel comfortable, but it's by definition static and stagnating. Okay. So instead of just be yourself, be your future self early. That's what I want you to think about. Okay. I'm going to botch this a little bit, but like I love, like, Matthew McConaughey has effectively always answered the question of, like, where are you going? What's next? What inspires you? Right. And his response is my 30-year-old self, my 40-year-old self, my 50-year-old self. It is the next decade of self. That is his source of inspiration. Be your future self early. Right. That is something that I think just is wonderful, right? I don't know that I need to do a bunch here, but I do recommend writing this down. And there is something psychological about writing versus typing this one out, that a lot of studies have shown in terms of you actually fulfilling what it is that you want. So what I want you to do is I want you to write a 2-year from now, future biography of yourself. I then want you to emulate that persona starting now, right? Prove it till you believe it. We'll circle back to an earlier one, right? Emulate that person in your meetings, communications, decision making, etc. Right? So earlier we talked about the decisions. Does this support my goals? If you notice, a lot of these kind of coincide together. It's kind of a lot of beauty of a spider web here. And then what you want to do is, whether this is something personal or professional, you want to ask for feedback from your leadership, from your spouse, from your friends, etc. Right? And track what is shifting as you level up and you make your progress as early as possible. Okay. On the personal side, it's the same thing, right? But here's what I want you to do is habits make your personal self who they are. So instead of writing that 2-year future bio of yourself on the personal side, I want you to list the 3 habits you want your future self to have. And what I want you to do is take one habit and do that habit for 60 days, non-negotiable. Okay. Then I want you to celebrate at the end of those 60 days, assuming you did it. If you didn't, then I need you to repeat. You start over, right? You do the daily thing for 60 days straight. Then you add on a second. And then you add on the third, right? And so this is going to take a while, right? I mean, we're talking 60, 120, 180 days. We're talking 6 months. But your future self will thank you for this, okay? So don't just be yourself, be your future self early, okay? Time heals all wounds, okay? The thing about this is it's actually kind of similar to the be positive, not passive one, right? Is time heals all wounds is just numbing yourself. It's just assuming passivity is going to resolve it, right? Where passivity delays the healing and it doesn't incorporate any reflection or movement or introspection, etc. Right? And so I want you to take time heals all wounds and turn that into time numbs, work heals. And work in this case doesn't mean your career, right? It means, again, it could be reflection, it could be movement, it could be going to the gym, it could be meditation, it could be seeing a therapist, it could be whatever. But again, action is what heals. Notice the theme with a lot of these cliches we're flipping on our head here, right? So from a professional example, you're just like, you know what? I'm over it. I'm leaving this job. I'm quitting this job. It's toxic. It's terrible. I'm over it. Okay. So here's what you do. Step one is the 12-step program. Acknowledge there's a program, or acknowledge there's a problem. You don't acknowledge the program. That is not step one of the 12-step program. Acknowledge there's a problem. In this case, acknowledge it's time to move on. Okay. You then, two, build your exit plan. And that's going to start with updating your job materials, right? So this is going to be your resume, cover letters, LinkedIn, etc. Then start applying to jobs, networking on a weekly basis, and then give yourself a transition date of like when you would ideally like to be out of this role. Take the actions. Don't decide. A decision requires action. So if you just say, you know what, I'm going to quit this job, and then you do nothing about it, you didn't decide squat, right? You need to actually take the actions to leave the job. Okay. So that's what you need to do as an example on the career side. On the personal side, let's say something terrible happened to you, right? Or whether either presently or historically, and you're trying to process some trauma or some grief, right? Some of the things that I really like to go to here are meditation, journaling, potentially therapy, right? Or coaching and purposeful healing, right? So what you're going to do is on a weekly basis, set aside some time for journaling or self-introspection therapy or investigating, other potential techniques. I'm a big fan of Stoicism, Buddhism, researching these kind of philosophies that really, really help you process trauma and grief, actually. So schedule some weekly time, once a week at least, to perform an activity or an action that is intended to help you heal. Okay? Write letters either to the person or even to yourself, right? That you're not going to send, but it just is helping you process, right? Again, there's a lot of psychology around writing and linking to your psychology that's huge. So writing a letter, just getting all the thoughts out. Like for me, I actually used to type stuff. Like I have Word documents on Word documents in my OneDrive of just like, sometimes like just I'm struggling to process a depression I used to have or anxiety I used to have or someone that hurt me in a particular way. And I would just literally come to my computer. Like I just couldn't sleep at night. And I'd come to my computer and I would just type it all out. Right. And then it would just be like, ironically, it would just be done. Like just getting it out was so much of it. Okay. And then, maybe also moving, something for me, working out has been absolutely huge. Right. And starting a small project, right? So again, like turning a little bit into a little bit of action, right? So these are different things that you can do, right, to get you to the state where you're not just time is going to heal the wounds. Like I'll eventually be fine. No, time numbs, work heals. Do the work. That does not mean always do your job. This is also taking care of yourself. Again, journaling is the work. Therapy is the work. Meditation is the work. Researching philosophy is the work. These sorts of things. Okay. Then work smarter, not harder. Not going to lie. This was actually the full inspiration for this video is that I saw a post by Alex Hormozy that was working smarter. I'm going to mess up the exact phrasing of it, but working smarter, not harder only works if your competition is dumb. Because if you're competing against people who are also smart, then the only option left is to work hard because they are already working smarter because they are also smart. Okay. So this is just fundamentally flawed. It breaks down when you perform any form of investigation on this. Okay. So I don't want you to work smarter, not harder, because like I said, it assumes your competition is dumb. But once everyone has access to the same tools and tactics and tech, then the only thing that you could do to out execute is the endurance, is the working harder, is the working longer, right? So what we're going to say here instead is outsmart the lazy, outwork the smart. That's what we're going to do here. Okay. That's the combination. And if you think about it, this is what's fixing the flaw is because this is saying that you're going to outsmart the lazy. So for somebody who is lazy, you need to work smarter for, and you're going to outwork the smart. So regardless of whether your competition is hardworking or they're smart or they're lazy, you're taking care of it with this mindset shift here. Outsmart the lazy, outwork the smart. Don't think I need to dive into a bunch of different examples here, right? But some actions that you can take to help you out here on the professional side of the equation, right, is audit where you're relying on efficiency, but you're still falling short, right? It's like, where are you continuously coming up lesser than, right? Allocate 2 to 3 weekly time blocks for skill deepening or project polishing, right? So like, I know something that did a lot for me on the project side of the equation was building in a little more time on the discovery phase, and also on the tail end phase, a little bit more time for post-mortem and documentation. Those are usually where people fall down, is they don't do enough discovery to actually know what they need to do to facilitate a particular project or fulfill a full task, or they get the 95% done and that they did all of the project, but then it becomes just tribal knowledge because there's no documentation, there's no knowledge base, there's no reference, there's no post-mortem of like, what could we have done better, etc. You can track your extra input and tie it to outcomes, right? So by working an extra hour, I was actually able to increase quality by 30%, right? So this is so that when you are working harder, this is an example of working harder, right? Your extra input, tie it to the outcomes. What were you able to get? And this is actually a beautiful thing, because when you begin to do this, you will actually see, again, it's sort of like the time study we talked about earlier, where you're spending your time and if you're allocating it correctly. And then you're going to use that data, all of this, in performance reviews to demonstrate your value. And this is how you get promoted, get more money, get noticed, etc. Okay. On your personal life, right? So what you can do here is, just stop trying to hack everything and instead just commit to that consistency over time. And you're going to outsmart the lazy and outwork the smart. And so set your daily wake up time and stick to it. No questions asked. That alarm gets off, you do a countdown of 3. The alarm goes off, you shut it off. 3, 2, 1, boom, you're alive, you're awake, you're good, right? Look at your phone. Look at the amount of time you're spending. Cut it by 80%. If you cut 80% of your phone and screen time, it's insane. If I recall correctly, the last stat I saw is I believe the average person spends 2 hours a day on their phone, 3 hours a day streaming video outside of their phone. So on average, people are spending 5 hours a day between their phone or other screens, non-work related. So we're talking Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, whatever, like 5 hours a day. Most people are awake for 16 to 17 hours. So you're spending 1/3 of your life entirely asleep. Then you're spending 1/3 of your waking hours doing nothing. Cut the phone and screen time by 80%. See what happens. Train yourself physically doing some sort of workout. Like I said, you don't have to try to become this jacked 1%er, right? But do something 3 to 5 times a week. And then track your energy, your clarity, and your pride and your confidence. And where things are working, just double down. Okay? And here's our last cliche that we're going to flip. Follow your passion. Negative, because passion is an unreliable compass. Competence and curiosity compound faster, right? That's what we're aiming for, is competence and curiosity. You want to be curious about everything, a lifelong student. And that is what causes you to build your competence. I've recently started saying in the last year or so, right, that everything you know to be the best thing you know is only that until you know the next best thing. And that's how science works. That's how math works. That's how discovery works. So it's like everything we know is the best until we discover the next best piece of information. And if you realize that there's very few scientific laws and there are so many scientific theories, your life is the same way. There are very few laws in your life, and almost everything in your life is a theory. Be curious, okay? Passion is fickle, and it's really dependent on your mood. But skills will build confidence. They'll breed curiosity. That cycle over and over again is sustainable, and you can reverse engineer momentum, turn into success. So instead of follow your passion, follow your progress. Okay? So from a career perspective, stop chasing the dream job. Instead, identify that role, identify the strengths that you have to go in there, identify the weaknesses, and go all the fuck in on both of those, right? Invest your time accordingly to either compound your strengths into freaking Supermans or compound your weaknesses into saying, how can I true these up? Okay. So you're going to do that by identifying the skills that you need to get to where you're looking to go. And you can use AI to do this. Again, asking it, hey, here's where I am and here's my resume and here's my experience. These are the types of jobs that I want to get to. What's my gap? What's missing? Etc. There's literally a gap analysis between resume and job description prompt built into my school community. If you go check that out in the resume masterclass, okay? Then you're going to look for these new roles, do that gap analysis, and then come up with a learning plan, whether it's doing things like Udemy, whether it's going back to school, whether it's going to trade school, whatever it might be, okay? And in your personal life, stop trying to find your passion and instead build it, right? 2 to 3 things to try for 30 days. Like, the amount of stuff in my life that I have tried and just it didn't stick. There's a graveyard behind me the size of, I don't know, Arlington Cemetery, right? I mean, that's probably extreme and not quite, but like that is the intent. Like it is like you just are like, hey, this thing looks cool. This seems cool. Will I like this? Will I not? I don't know. Try it for 30 days. See what happens, right? So pick a few new hobbies, try them out, right? Commit to 30 days of practice without any pressure, right? Journal about which one's the ones you like and what you dislike and how the activity went, right? And then just build a structure around the things that stick, right? And then you will be shocked about how passionate you are about your life over time. Okay. So if we sound these off pretty quickly, hopefully I can do this, right? So progress over perfection, negative. Perfect enough to ship, precise enough to win. Consistency is key, negative. Consistency is a multiplier, not a compass. Fake it till you make it, negative. Prove it till you believe it. Say yes to opportunities, negative. Say yes to strategy, not noise. You have the same 24 hours as Jeff Bezos, negative. It's not about hours, it's about leverage. Hustle 24/7, negative. Build systems that hustle for you. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, negative. You miss 100% of the shots you take with your eyes closed. Think positive, negative. Be positive, not passive. Just be yourself, negative. Be your future self early. Time heals all wounds, negative. Time numbs, work heals. Work smarter, not harder, negative. Outsmart the lazy, outwork the smart. And lastly, follow your passion, negative. Instead, follow your progress. I know this was a long video, so if you stuck with me through this, badass. I love it. If you have comments, leave it down below. If you want to see more content like this, let me know by liking and subscribing and letting me know down below in the comments as well. I respond to every single comment every single time. Check the track record. I also do content on LinkedIn and X and Instagram, so follow me there. Check that out. Join the school community, and you will get all of the weekly releases I am doing from a career coaching and AI and career progression perspective. If you have any questions for me, hit me up on the Connect. And if you want to work one-on-one, then book a call using the link in the description as well. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time.